I'll just wait a bit, guys. If you're like watching us, I mean, doing the setup stuff, just waiting for YouTube to confirm because I prefer to put it online straight away so I don't have to upload afterwards as well. So, okay, so we are live and welcome again to the Alchemy chat number 30. Woo! Let's celebrate that as well. And as we're like just getting into the numbers as well, and Carol and Amanda, I've been talking to Caroline so much this week as well, but it's like Amanda was saying, it's number 3 is creativity, is that right? Like, because it's from the 30, from numerology and everything. So let's, makes this a creative, let's say the next 30 episodes in there. I will be creative anyway, so it's good. So,
Co-creative as well, isn't it? That's the theme of what we've been talking about, that co-creativity.
co-creative, we're co-creating stuff as well. So for today's episode, I feel I like, the theme that, you have the 5 people that you hung out the most with. It's something that, Amanda brought it up as we were talking today because we spoke to some, good friends this weekend as usual. We have people around us as well. And we were talking about, I don't know if you heard about this. I think the first time I heard it was from Jim Rohn, who was like a self-development guy that talked about that stuff that we're the average. And if we calculate that as well, even like we're talking about numbers as well, but like if you calculate the income of the people around you, the ones that you spend the most amount of time, or the ones that you take advice from, or you're part of like a community, you're going to notice that yes, there is an average of income. And I used to talk this with my clients as well about there is an average of amount of hours that you spend at work, because then yes, there is a part of our identity, our ego, which we're talking about numbers today as well, about number of people that you slept with and so on, but there will be an average in there. And it's interesting because our ego tends to want to look good around those people in that sense. um, so for example, if you work 70 hours a week and you're in an environment where people work lots of hours, it's almost like, oh, it's a status, like, oh no, I worked 80 hours, I worked 100 hours. And at the same time, there's the other side of people like, oh, that I've been to for these kind of new way of doing business and stuff for a while as well. No, I just worked 5 hours this week. Do you see what I mean? It kind of becomes the opposite of looking, oh, I don't work 70 hours anymore. Do you see what I mean? I work just 3 hours a week. I would just work 1 hour a week and so on. And it's interesting how, yeah, our identity start to be, kind of shaped by the people around us because our ego wants to look good around it as well. So that's when it's very important for us to start paying attention to, how is it that identity inside of us is feeling kind of pumped. You're gonna feel that in yourself when you say, I work 70 hours a week. It might feel like, oh, I'm a little bit ashamed because I'm supposed to be working more hours, or like, oh, I'm feeling good because I'm working a certain amount of hours. Do you see? There will be that kind of like feeling between shame and guilt, or shame and feeling good, looking good, or not looking good, looking bad, surrounded by the people that are around as well. And we even tap into, beautifully, Amanda put beforehand as well, how about if we are one of those 5 people talking to us, on all day long as well? What we're talking about here is our own mind with the thoughts of like, you're not good enough because haven't done that amount of hours. You're not good enough because you're not earning X amount, or you're not good enough because you slept with too many women, or you didn't sleep with any women. Who is that, those voices that are in your head, that could be one of the fifth, or it could be the sixth person that is you in that moment as well. So I feel, if you haven't heard of, you're the average of the 5 people, that's welcome to that, concept, and start paying attention. Because as soon as I heard that for the first time, I start paying attention. It's kind of freaky, I would say, to pay attention, but it is the way that we work. And then we have choices once we have that as well, to start paying attention. do I want to be part of this group of people here? Is it actually making me, feel good? Do I want to carry on working, I don't know, 70, 100 hours a week? Is this the healthy part of me? Or do I want not to work anything, and do I feel fulfilled, and so on? So it's almost like finding, your tribe, your group of people that feels good to around as well. So enough of me talking a lot on my little intro, and then I'll pass
Oh,
it on to Amanda.
no, oh, good morning. Oh, good day. I don't know if we record
Yeah.
first morning, but whoever's here with us now, lovely to have you here with us. And yeah, it's really lovely. We have a really good chat in the morning, don't we? And then we sort of come on air, and then we bring with us the energy. And I love how you encapsulate what we've been talking about. And we're saying that co-creativity, really, we're not saying that anything that feels in your own heart, in your own moral code, in your own what's right to you, there isn't a right or wrong. I mean, we talk about God and we say God doesn't sit there saying you should sleep with 5, you should sleep with 100. It's when we are able to truly be with ourselves, and as Jeannie said quite rightly, when we have an identity that's maybe always wanting approval or to fit in with a certain person, because they could say, well, I'm with the crowd that says, 100 hours, I'm really hard working. But then when I'm at the weekend, I perhaps am with friends that are a bit more sort of, hey, I only do 5 hours a week because, life's, and then suddenly you feel shame. So it's saying, well, it's when we're able to be vulnerable with ourselves, isn't it? And be able to actually say, hang on a minute, I wonder why when I'm with this group of people, I'm really proud because I'm fitting in, I'm doing 100 hours a week. But actually, if I'm really honest, it's exhausting me. I'm not spending time with loved ones. I'm actually resenting it. So the payoff, I don't think it's really working. And then when I'm with this other group of people, they only work, say, 2 days a week, and then the rest of the time they're off doing amazing things. But actually, maybe that feels too far the other way for me. It might be right for them, but maybe they're getting a bit of an identity out of, hey, I don't give in to work and I'm a free spirit. And so we're not, judgment is when we sort of try and make somebody else wrong or make ourselves wrong. It's when we're able to co-create within ourselves and say, well, when I can sort of be with those beliefs or ideas or conditionings or patterns, whether it's around approval seeking, I need to fit in, whatever it is, when we can really go within and be with ourselves, we can start to notice, like Junior said, when I'm with this person and I'm with these people, and there's a lot of judgment around others, and I'm noticing that the other person's always wrong. There doesn't seem to be any accountability within, and that's a co-creativity when we're able to be so vulnerable with ourselves that we can say everything that happens to us, even if we perceive it as wrong, it's not a punishment. It's God, life, our soul saying to us, hey, you're ready now. There's a belief, there's a pattern, there's a conditioning that doesn't match the truth of who you are, which is I am absolutely worthy, absolutely lovable, loved, you matter, you have infinite value, you are safe, you're adored, you are creative, you have a creative, you're powerfully creative, you have an imagination to use, you have skill sets. Um, and there's a process sometimes, when we're ready to look at certain things that don't match that. And I think Ginny and I were saying as well that there can be a real vulnerability in that, because sometimes we can have a behavior that then we can say, oh God, I'm embarrassed that I have a belief around unworthiness. I'm embarrassed this thing happened, that maybe whether around a relationship where God, I maybe attract relationships where I know they're not good for me, but I'm so needy of attention that I let this person actually get quite abusive. And it's actually, instead of feeling ashamed of that, being able to go within and say, can I love those parts of me? This is a real Matt Kahn teaching, which I know my inner self was beautifully aligned with as well, around that, with God, loving those parts of ourselves that we tell ourselves, well, they're wrong, I shouldn't have that. And then we can have an ego that's identified around shame and guilt, and we just constantly remembering things that it says we did wrong. But our soul, our heart rejoices when we are able to see a pattern or a belief that doesn't match our worthiness, and it brings us back to that bliss of knowing who we really are again. It never looks back and says, yeah, you took that left turn, didn't you? That was wrong, wasn't it? It rejoices when we get to a place of where we've been self-responsible and we've looked within and been vulnerable and we've been accountable, not in a self-judgment way, that now we can say, God, put me in that same situation, and I know intuitively I'd turn right. I wouldn't even think about turning left anymore. And that's where we are now. And there's a joy in that. There's never a looking back. And we're both sharing about spending time with people maybe at the weekend where it was remembering that power within to create experiences that feel good to our own discernment and intuition. And what that can be for everybody can really vary. Everyone has different values and gifts. We're all here for different purposes. There isn't a right or wrong, but I think we were saying sometimes you can achieve something and think, gosh, I've really healed something, that a trauma and abuse I never thought I'd heal. I've healed it, and I kind of feel a bit lost now because that was kind of my purpose. And gosh, I've gone to the next level. So on that next level, right, what feels good to my heart here, and what can I achieve? What feels good to me? I think about something, I think about achieving something in the future. I haven't done it yet, but what does that feel like to my heart? Does it feel loving? Does it feel uplifted? Does it feel excited? Does it feel joyful? In the imagining of having it. So I can create those feelings imagining it, because anything that we want externally, it is always about what we think it's going to make us feel like. And co-creativity is remembering that if we can imagine something and it feels good and open and loving to our heart, yeah, then that's good, create it. But obviously for our egos, creating something is around lack and not enoughness and scarcity and unworthiness, and I'm not safe. So if I can attract a partner that will swear to always love me, they will never leave me, they will chain themselves to my side no matter what, then I'm obviously loved and safe. So, and we may create a partner who will swear all those things, and then of course they're not meant to do that. So
and they can't, do you see what I mean? They can't kind of honor that promise as well, because they can't be 100% of the time with you all the time. And because life happens, you get to go to work, or you know I don't know, it might not work anymore, and then why would you stay with someone that is not working as well? So how would you honor that as well? So
you've maybe co-created, two people come together. One is, I need you to make me feel safe and loved, and the other person's values could be, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy enough until I'm making somebody else feel good.
yeah. And it goes back to that idea of the ego, the identity, which is interesting. Like we were talking about, this happens, of course, with our one partner, but with our, the 5 people that we spend the most time with, that we feel that we get to look good in front of them in terms of the ego and everything. And then yes, you might be like, trying to look good because you are the victim, to your, friends and so on. And someone else is trying to look, for them, what looks good is actually that they are actually dominating, and then they are the right one, and then so on. So it's a perfect match. Like, oh, I need to be, the victim, and I'm dominated, and I'm all this. And then the other one is like, I have to dominate. And then that feels like a perfect partnership where maybe neither of them are happy with themselves, but they're fulfilling, that mask, that idea that they learned along the way, that looks good through the outside in that sense.
And as you said right at the beginning, I think we said this on it right during a conversation, the more we spend time being with ourselves and allowing ourselves to feel again, we start to become aware, don't we? Actually, if I'm really honest, you know, what does this relationship feel like? And I just want to share, obviously we're really careful, aren't we, about not exposing anybody. I worked with somebody who, they came to me because their partner said they had a drinking problem. So they came to me and they said, I've not got a drinking problem. I love my partner so much. They've organised this. I'm coming. I really love them and I want to reassure them there isn't a problem. So the first few times we did work on how to sort of go within, use your breathing, go into that space and stillness. And they were telling me lots of things about the reason I cycle to work is that my partner can have a really nice car. The reason I cycle to work is because it's good for the environment and it's good for me to be fit. And my partner worries about my health. The reason I cycle to work is so we can have extra money for holidays. So that's why they cycle to work. The reason I probably go to the pub after work every night is because my job is very much about making contacts, being in an environment where you have to be sociable. So the reason I take clients out for lunchtime, I have to get a bottle of wine, is because that's the expectation. But I don't drink, really. And I was, yeah, okay, yeah. So I think it was about week 3 or 4. I said very gently, so why did you, what was the original reason that you came? And so, because I just want to reassure my wife, my partner, that I haven't got a drinking problem. As if, oh my God, of course I haven't. And I said, okay, so would you mind writing down then, sharing what units you drink a day or a week? So you can either do this now or go away, and then when you come back next week. And this person's whole energy shifted on a dime. They got angry, they got defensive. They said, I didn't come here to be questioned. You are as bad as my partner. You're judging me. I came here to show my partner how much I love them. I'm willing to come and do this hippie nonsense because I love my partner so much. I don't want to worry, but it's not a problem anyway. So to cut a long story short, I said, okay, all right. So we can either work through these things that are coming up, or if you feel you perhaps want to go, so I'm going to go. I didn't come here to be judged, you know. So off they went. Anyway, so they contacted me. It was fairly soon. And they said, can I book the next session? And I said, you're very welcome. And I said, but to come back will be to look at this. So if you're going to come back for another session, it will be to look at the alcohol units on a factual level. I said, it doesn't, I'll be honest, it makes a difference to me. It's just about getting to a place where of truth within you. So they came back and they broke down, they cried, and they said, basically, yeah, I cycle, like in my water bottle, there's vodka. And they basically admitted that I use alcohol to give me confidence. Quite a shy person, really. And his job was about having to take clients out, to be sociable. He had an accomplice at work who was like, God, you know, a bit of Dutch courage. He'd had to take a big presentation, do a big speak. They'd go out for lunch and, oh, Dutch courage. They'd have a few drinks. They cycled to work so they could have a drink. But they're in such a place of such a belief that the alcohol made them into the person they needed to be to keep the job. And they also thought that their partner liked them and they'd had a drink because it made them confident, funny. Anyway, oh, it just disappeared. Anyway, as we healed all this, it turned out he spoke to their partner, and the partner said, I don't like you when you had a drink. You're an arsehole. Oh.
Oops, sorry, it's my camera. I will be back in a second. Just a second.
Oh.
you can carry on. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and anyway, so over time, it was really felt very uncomfortable because the alcohol was keeping them safe because they thought they needed to be this certain person to keep the lifestyle. But when he in that moment, it was such vulnerability. There was so much shame around being quite a gentle person, quite quiet. Yeah, he wasn't somebody wanted to walk into the room and have the sassy jokes. He was a very authentic person, very gentle, very kind. But the environment he'd grown up in, men had to be men. You played rugby, you drank, you womanized, you took care of your woman. And yeah, you have a bit, you lie to your wife, but it's what you do. God, you get away with stuff. So for this person, it was a real vulnerable journey of looking at those parts of himself that he'd really shamed, had been really told wasn't being a man, being vulnerable and gentle. And over time, he then went on to go to, he actually went to it was like a 5-day rehabilitation place. I've not spoken to him in a long time, but yeah, and that's what we're talking about, isn't it? It was, and that belief was so strong that, well, if I'm this gentle, vulnerable person, my wife won't love me. If I'm this gentle, authentic, lovely person, I'll lose my clients. And he said, yeah, he did lose some clients, but he started to attract clients that wanted someone that was authentic and could listen to them, not someone that was a bit of a bullshitter, but someone that was, tell me about what you want from this. And he was talking at the time about changing the company he was working. I don't know if I ever did, but yeah, a big part of him was starting to love those parts of him that he'd been so ashamed that he'd become a secret drinker to hide who he really was.
I thank you for sharing that story as well. And I I know, I mean, we're preserving, as much as we can of the identity of the people, and, of course, but I feel it's so helpful for all of us, that are listening to this as well, to find out, like, even like simple things for me, for example, coffee, for example, it's something that we can, you feel that you get to be in a certain way of like energy and so on. And I use coffee for a long time as well, associated with my coaching. So every coaching call, I would have to have a cup of coffee, to the point where it wasn't healthy for me, because I would have like 5, 6 coaching calls, and then you have 5, 6 coffees a day. And and it's a milder thing than drinking, but to the point where I would not feel a good coach if I wasn't, kind of in a sharp mind, with the caffeine in the mind as well. And I feel it's that expectation that you have to be a certain level of energy, that you have to be a certain level of confidence in this case, for example, and so on. But also, I love the way that you put it out there as well, Amanda, because he was pretty much, in his mind, looking good for everything that he learned on that circle of friends beforehand as well. Because if you are a man, you are confident, you are, you're behaving this way. And then all those ticks was like, yeah, I'm confident, I'm behaving this way, I'm not being weak because I'm not telling it to my wife. Do you see what I mean? I'm not being weak to myself because I'm not having a drinking problem here. Do you see what I mean? Because I'm not facing the numbers in front of me in that sense as well. And whoever is watching this, you might be realizing a few things that you are doing. Do you see what I mean? That it's actually not connected to who you are really, but it's more about how I look, you know what I mean, by the people that I'm surrounded with. And you're going to notice this, as I said earlier, just kind of pay attention. As soon as you're talking to the people around you, you're going to feel like almost that ego inflating or deflating.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, I work 70 hours a week, or I didn't work this week.
Yes.
And do you see, it's like there is that kind of inflating, deflating of the ego. And we have a choice as well. Like there are several options that we can do here. One is to love that part of ourselves. And I love what Amanda put it in here. And it was the thing that I took a note for this specifically, to love the parts of ourselves that we feel ashamed of, or to love the parts of ourselves that we feel wronged,
Yeah.
or, guilt. Because
Yeah.
it's just, it's almost like a perception of our ego. For example, if I'm ashamed that I didn't work this week, it's, again, there's no right or wrong on not working this week. It's just, who am I comparing it to? Do you see what I mean? If I'm ashamed that I don't know, I didn't earn money this month, or that I borrowed money, or that I earned a certain amount of money, and I'm inflating or deflating, do you see, in that sense? It's like, who is it that I'm really looking after here? Who is it that I'm really paying attention to? What are the voices that are going, in behind my head that is actually inflating or deflating my ego? And we have a choice as well of changing the environment as well. If we don't want to overwork, for example, like 100 hours a week, and we, because that is what's pumping you, like to say like, oh, I worked 100 hours a week. And I do know people that worked 115 hours, do you see what I mean, every single week. And there was a way of, like, you can see how much that is destructive to the person itself as well, because it starts working health and then deteriorating relationships and this and that. Do you see, you start worshiping, working harder and so on and so on. And then and at the same time, I think people, that they couldn't work because, you're still on that victim mode. Now I can't, and this and that. Do you see, in the same way? And it's also, I know although it feels horrible to be the victim, it feels inflated for the ego to say, I can't work, therefore I need your help. And what I mean, I look I look bad, but in the looking bad, you're looking good to yourself, to your imaginary, friends that you have around you, in that sense.
Yeah. Oh, Julie, I love this, and it actually, I'll be honest, it makes me quite emotional, because you within ourselves as well, you see, but it's painful, isn't it? I think it's quite painful when you see a certain belief that somebody's had that doesn't match, who they really are, of the worthiness and wholeness and how powerful they are within. Um, and and again, we're not saying it, we're not making anything right or wrong. If you look at someone like Mother Teresa or the Dalai Lama or somebody, they did do 115 hours a week, but for them there was no ego drive. They were doing it completely from within their heart. So it was congruent. But for some of us, for Junior and I, yeah, we joke, we say we could sit here for days just talking and sharing this, because it feels so congruent and powerful, and it feels passionate about it. And so I'll be honest, I could probably sit here for days, quick wee stops, have something to eat, we're fine. And sharing that vulnerability, isn't it? And I think we've shared many times here ourselves. I know for me, the approval seeking, the people pleasing, my worthiness is in making other people feel better. So if I can't make that person feel better, I failed them today, or I'm not worthy in their eyes because I didn't do something to make them, or whatever it was. And it can be quite a painful process to look at that. But when, I think the bit that can make the shift is, well, what if I can be loving to that part of me? And that's a big part of the work I do with people. So I tend to work with people who perhaps have sort of an ego that's less than, and it can live off, I'm not good enough, or approval seeking. But then you do get the other ego that's a bit sort of feeling shame or guilt is so awful that I don't ever want to feel about that. So I never feel responsible for everything. I'm never accountable. It's always the other person. And it's just knowing where you are on that spectrum as well. But I've worked with people who you know, are very intelligent, you know, hugely successful jobs in the outside world. And then when they, you know, they start being vulnerable to themselves, they'll start being open, they'll start looking at things. Even it brings up defensiveness, like that guy, he was defensive, he was angry. You know, how dare you make me feel bad, you know, because it was really challenging that belief of, I'm not safe to be who I am in this world. My life will fall apart. So don't make me look at that. You know, I got that. I got it. I've done it to myself. So that's why, Junior, I really want to share. I know all the amazing other work you do. I know you're working with the people who, I know you're passionate about bringing the gifts and knowledge that they want to bring to the world in certain different areas that are so powerful. But it is, isn't it? It's allowing ourselves to be with all parts of ourselves. And I mean, I work with a wonderful woman who, again, obviously being careful not wanting to give too much away, but she'd taken on something in her life that, oh my word, absolutely selfless. But in doing that, it was really challenging a lot of beliefs that she had around her worthiness, around being self-responsible. So there was a lot of, without her knowing it, this person is now doing this to me, making me feel bad. But actually, when she could see that she was able to stand up and say, you know, I matter. So actually, I'm going to say no to you, and you're not going to like that. So for a moment, I'm not going to have your approval. I'm not going to be in harmony with you. And that takes a lot of courage, but I'm going to find that harmony, that strength, that wholeness within me. So whenever I fake any yes, and Gina and I talked about this, didn't we, about faking anything, whether it's an orgasm, if anyone at all ages are listening, possibly. So, yeah, whether it's a fake yes, oh, our hearts, you know, it's that time, isn't it, where this person probably isn't going to like it. Let me disappoint you. I'm so sorry, but I can't do that for you today. Yeah, I can't do that. And it might be that we haven't got the energy, or we're sensing we don't want to enable that person, or we're giving that person's time and space for them to go within, for them to do the work, for them to reconnect. For whatever reason, that no, if it comes from our heart, that no feels loving to us, it will always be the right thing for the other person, even if their ego might not like and go, oh, you know, they said no, oh, but their hearts will be going, thank you, because you're bringing something up for them. And if that person's not ready, then that's fine, you know, but we can only be responsible for ourselves. And the key is being open, being vulnerable, and loving those parts of ourselves that we say are wrong or shamed. Or because I've had throughout the years, many people say to me, weird for what I do, yeah, weird, all sorts of words that I used to shrink. I'm like, oh God, yeah, I am. I don't fit in, and and now I rejoice in who I am, and yeah, there'll be people that I've shared. And Juna's been so wonderful in allowing so much to be shared here. It's been such a gift, you know, for both of us to be so sharing and vulnerable, and I actually embrace now who I am, and it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but you become your own cup of tea. And then you were saying you attract people with you that want to uplift you, you know, want to see your goodness. You can always see goodness in everybody. Um, that's a gift as well. We become very loving, but it doesn't mean you have to have them in your life or you have to spend lots of time with them. But instead of making that person wrong, we can say, yes, from a discernment point of view, I maybe don't want to be around people that go around beating up people of a different race. That doesn't match who I am. I can maybe get an idea of what's behind them doing that, but I can still see there's goodness in them. And I'm going to choose to see the goodness in them. But it's going to be a no from me as in wanting to spend time with them because that doesn't match who I am.
Awesome. I feel like exactly what you said. I think what we can, leave to ending, this episode soon as well. It's like, I feel again, everything starts from who we really are. We can change, of course, the people around us to see in that way, but we get to make a decision from ourselves. Responsibilities within us in that sense, and it's not about, and I yeah, there is a tiny line between taking responsibility or being ashamed of or blaming yourself. It's taking responsibility empowers you to do something about it. You can change something when you take responsibility. For example, yes, I am being, I don't know, or I've done X, for example. It
Yeah,
might not feel right now, but I'm taking a different position right now, for example. Or even like from being a victim, for example, yeah, I've been a victim so far, and I'm choosing not to be the victim anymore. And I'm stepping out of this situation in that sense, rather than, carry on that, oh, I've been a victim for a long time, I shouldn't have been, and everything else. And we just go on that, and it will take you time to take that position there. But like, I feel the sentence or the quote that we can leave from Amanda beautifully put it today is like, to love the parts, I'm just reading it as I took a note as well, to love the parts of ourselves that we feel ashamed of or we feel wronged,
yeah,
and take responsibility of, we can take a different step if we wanted to. We can use that as a, like, for example, what Amanda put it in there, like some people used to call me weird and I used to feel ashamed of. And when we embrace that, is like, yeah, I might be weird, for some people,
actually.
but that's who I am.
Yeah.
And now I'm ready to surround myself of people that are actually even weirder than I am. Do you see?
I love that.
And that's, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, Gina. Yeah, I love that.
So yeah, we have that choice of like, creating that environment. It's, I mean, it's always also good as well. I like, to have the contrast of people with different perspectives in our lives. But
Really.
yeah, what feels aligned to you in that sense as well. So
And just so I know, we need to cut a bit.
go for it. Yeah.
Once you go into that feeling, and yeah, it might feel uncomfortable and scary, and oh God, I feel so embarrassed that I was such a victim, or I God, I've been blaming, or whatever it is. As you go into that, as you go deeper and deeper, you get to the place of self love again, and worthiness and wholeness. And then you get to create from a place of authenticity. And that's where the joy comes back. God, I get to now co-create relationships that feel loving and giving, and uplifting and supportive. And they might be challenging, but challenging in a good way. I get to create life from a place of worthiness and abundance and value and power and creativity and joy. And God, I'm not scared to feel how I'm feeling. I'm not scared to look at my parts of myself anymore. So the next step is where that's going to take you. And I can promise you, even if there's some losses in your life, if there's some things that aren't ready to come with you, you're making space for the what's going to now match that. I'm worthy and this world adores me, and I'm abundant, and I've got infinite gifts and values, and I love who I am, and I'm safe in who I am, and I'm always on a journey, and I love that. And but that taking self responsibility, there's huge gifts in it.
Awesome, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Episode number 30. It's coming to an end, but we see you guys on the next one as well. So if you enjoyed this one, leave us a thumb up, like all the YouTube stuff that we get to do. If you have anything that you agree with us as well, leave a comment. If you don't agree with something, like, oh, it's bullshit what you said or something, it's fine. Let us know as well in the comments. This kind of conversations, this kind of chats, it's something that really kind of like connects with you as well. So yeah, sign up, be part of our the Alchemy chats that we do here as well, so you can know when the next episode is on. And with that, we're leaving today. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Thank you. Lots of love.
Bye
Bye for now.
bye.